Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar. This is on the call for FY2020 Large-Scale EMSL Research. We're glad to have you. As we get started, I want to establish maybe that we have the audience captured like we want. If you could look in your control box, and there should be a chat window. If you can just give us a yes that you can hear us okay, thumbs up of some kind, then we know that we've connected right with you. It looks like some of those are coming in. Great, I'm glad. It's the technical check first before we start. I'm glad to have you here, and I'm Ryan Risenmay, and I'm here with Nancy Hess and Scott Baker. And we wanted to figure out who you are to begin with, and so there's going to be a poll showing up here, and if you would just let us know a quick answer about the role that you play as you're coming in and learning about this call for proposals. And we'll capture that data here for just a little bit as we get started. As you're doing that, I'll note that Nancy Hess is over environmental science. She's the lead in that area here at EMSL, and Scott Baker is over biological science. And so let's see, I think we should have the results coming in. Oh, great. So looks like scientist and engineer is about half of you so far that have checked in. We also have some faculty and postdocs. So great, glad to hear it. There's one more poll, which is to help us get an idea if you've ever submitted a proposal for EMSL research before. And that's just a quick answer as well. We appreciate you doing that, just because it gives us a chance as we're talking with you here to orient our discussion around where you're coming from. If you've tried to reach out to us before with a proposal and you're looking to refine that effort, or if it's a new effort for you. So let's go ahead and close that. See if we get the results. Okay, so we have about a third of you that have never submitted a proposal, and about a third of you that have, or 40% or so, well, more than that. 38% show 3 or more, so that's good to know. That's great. All right, so let's go ahead and start our discussion today. Nancy, why don't you tell us what is EMSL? I'm sure the audience is somewhat familiar, but that might spark some new ideas as they consider what we have to share today.
Sure. EMSL is a Department of Energy Office of Science user facility, and we have really amazing capabilities and expertise that help scientists from around the world conduct really challenging science, and they provide access to equipment and expertise that they probably don't have in their own institutions. So it's really allowing them to advance their science forward.
And so is EMSL more than just a collection of fancy instruments?
It is absolutely more than a collection of fancy instruments. We do have fancy instruments, but we also have the expertise to run those instruments, to work with users, to analyze the data, and to collaborate on all aspects of research, from conceiving the experiments all the way to publication.
So are the scientists interested in just coming and visiting and using a particular instrument?
Well, that can happen. They will come to visit, or a large majority also will send samples or come send their students. And it's usually using more than just one instrument. It's sort of utilizing the broad breadth of expertise and suite of instruments to address their question from many angles.
And do they have to be an expert already in that particular use of that instrument or that particular area of research?
No, not at all. They can work with our experts to craft the experiment, to help to analyze the data, and our staff here will run the samples, will give guidance on what kinds of samples are appropriate for which kind of instrument, and how we can best accelerate the research of the users.
And then can they request more than just one instrument that they're going to use here? Or what if they don't even know how to operate this extra piece of equipment?
Yeah, well, it's such a great opportunity for them to explore instrument platforms that they may not be familiar with or don't have that expertise. And so not only are we experts at providing that guidance, but also helping them assimilate the data from these different instruments together to really understand the information they're getting about their research. Question?
Okay, good. So that's a nice introduction, and I should let the audience know we've prepared a few pieces of information that will go on slides that you'll see here as we go through the rest of these questions, but also this is going to be captured into a recorded video and available on the YouTube channel as well, so that you can roll back and listen to some of these answers again if you need. We're going to cover a lot of ground here as much as we can. So this proposal call is focused on EMSL's science areas, and what does that mean specifically?
Well, we have two excuse me. We have two science areas. One in environmental science, which is Nancy's area, and she can talk about that. But I'll mention the biological science area, which is my area, and we're interested in the molecular aspects of biology, both experimental and modeling, to understand how molecular processes work in the environment, for nutrient flow, for carbon cycling. We cover all DOE or BER relevant organisms, from microbes, fungi, algae to plants. And we also have an interest in biotechnology as far as biofuels and biochemical production go, commodity chemical production from biological systems.
The environmental sciences area, we have a goal of really developing that predictive understanding of how nutrients and energy flows through that terrestrial and subsurface ecosystems, and also relates into exchange with the atmosphere. And so it's really understanding that processes all the way from the bedrock all the way up to the top of the tree canopy. We're interested in how nutrients, carbon, contaminants all move through these systems, and understanding the cycling, geochemical processes that control the chemistry of these processes as well. And so in addition to the experimental frameworks that we have large capabilities in the computation, modeling, simulation that allows people to really integrate this more mechanistic understanding into larger scale implications and predictions.
So while that's the focus, the science focus areas of EMSL, what sort of science questions do you see researchers coming to EMSL with? Or maybe another way to look at that is, can they submit an idea that doesn't exactly fit within that structure of science focus areas at EMSL?
Well, we do accept proposals that are in a category that's novel applications of EMSL instrumentation and expertise, although we will only accept 1 to 2 of those proposals per cycle at most. We're really focused on the biological and environmental sciences area. This year, our call topics in biology are, we like to have modeling and experimental approaches to understand synthetic biology for not only biofuels and bioproducts, but materials. There's a list of bullets on our website that really the call should be written to. Other areas are biological dark matter, and there's also links to literature in the BER space so that you can link back to DOE mission.
Yeah. And then for the environmental sciences area, the bullets are up there, but please do go to the website and get the exact verbiage from there. But we're really interested in how mineral and organic matter interactions control microbial access to carbon, the role of hydrology in biogeochemical processes, and how genetic functional diversity can help promote or control resilience of plant and microbial communities to stresses in response to perturbation. And a couple of more interests also in the atmospheric aerosol area, and particularly their ability to form ice forming nuclei. And so again, there's much more detail available on the website, and as Scott mentioned, and how that relates to the BER mission.
Okay, so the scientists might be wondering as they listen to this or read through that information, now, why should I take the time to write a proposal, put it all together? It's going to be an effort. So
Well, it's a 4-page proposal, so shorter than a lot of proposals you may write for grants. But we work with users to put together a proposal that makes sense for the capabilities we have, and it's really for access to cutting-edge equipment that is outside of what you might find in a university core center or other similar kinds of places. So it's really worth it because we're here to accelerate your science, and DOE pays for us to work with you.
Okay, so then what's required to put that proposal together? Let's walk through that.
Sure. Well, if you go to the EMSL website, you'll see a tab for users. That's the first place to go. And then on that tab, there's an area called Proposal Opportunities and Calls. And when you bring up that page, you'll see on the left-hand side, annual and special calls. And then within that window, you'll see this large-scale research option. And that will give you all the information that you need. Now, there is also additional information where the proposal schedule and the review criteria, and then some the proposal package, all the pieces of information that you need to provide are given there. The next step is to write that 4-page proposal. There's several appendices that are required, and all that needs to be assembled into a PDF. And then I think the next step is to submit that to the user portal, which is on that top bar in the red circle there. If you can't find the information that you need in terms of the technical parts of that proposal assimilation, you can contact the user support office, and they are very willing to help guide you through that process. And again, if you have any questions about the scientific aspects of that, you can reach out to Scott and myself, and we can help direct you to the scientists and experts that can help assemble what instruments would be best, how many samples are the right number of samples to request, and kind of help you scope the research.
I think it's worth noting while we're looking at the screen too that there are 2 proposals right now, or 2 calls, and maybe you could just note that this is the large scale that we're focused on.
Right, so this call is focused on the large scale EMSL request, which utilizes the expertise and the equipment within EMSL. The other opportunity is called Ficus, and that is with our partner user facility, the Joint Genome Institute. And within that call, not only do you have access to EMSL expertise, but you also will be accessing the sequencing capabilities down at JGI.
But this conversation's around the large scale research. So let's talk about acceptance rate. As they submit their proposals, how many are accepted?
We accept about, over the last 5 years, we've accepted around 35% of the proposals to our large scale call in the areas of biological and environmental science. Now, if we talked earlier about the novel applications, and again, I want to emphasize that we will accept those, but only 1 or 2, excuse me, only 1 or 2 will be accepted per year.
Of the novel.
Of the novel applications, but 35% again for the biological and environmental science areas.
Okay, so who makes those decisions, Nancy?
Yeah, so we have an external review panel that we assemble, and they're largely academic and other national lab scientists, and they will score the proposal on the 5 review criteria, and those criteria are provided on the additional information on that website that I mentioned, and they score them, and then they determine a ranked list. Once we have that ranked list, the EMSL scientists will go and determine what the level of effort from EMSL is required to perform that science, and that effort is translated into essentially dollars, and so then we will fund those proposals until we run out of money.
Okay. I can see in my other window that there's chat going on. There are questions probably coming in, and that's great. If you have questions, feel free to start writing them in and they'll queue up. We're going to get to a question part because we're now getting to the part of this discussion where we talk about what makes for a winning proposal, and that may be top of mind for everybody too. So what is the secret?
There's a lot of secrets, but the main one is preparation. Spending the time to generate a compelling hypothesis and to talk to our experts here who can help guide you in the cutting edge capabilities that we have is really the secret. Our review panels really like to see, again, that strong hypothesis. What are you going to do with the data? What's the story you want to tell? How does this answer your question? And ultimately, what do those, what would a publication look like? But really, it comes down to preparation and spending the time to write a good proposal. Last minute really shows through.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd want to add to that, Nancy? Or?
Well, I guess the other thing is making sure that you submit it by the deadline. That's also very helpful. And making sure that your package is complete. So.
Okay, good. So that's one of the common mistakes that we've seen is they just don't make the deadline sometimes. And let's look again at what their science questions might be, though. There must be more to a proposal that's strong than just having a good question in mind.
Yeah, so I can add on to that. Sorry.
Yeah.
The other part of that is demonstrating why access to EMSL is essential in conducting the research. And so it can be a great, just demonstrating what contribution EMSL brings that they cannot access at their own institutions.
Okay, good, that connection
right
to EMSL.
And I'd also add that responding specifically to the call bullets we put up there, that is a key. If you're not responding to those call bullets or it's outside the scope of what we've determined to be the call, then those are going to be less successful as well.
Okay, good. Now, we've had a call like this before, and we've had a webinar like this before, and we've seen some questions in the past. We thought we would pull a few of those out and cover them in this discussion this time. One of which is how much is the typical proposal funded for? Is there a dollar limit to what's available?
There isn't really a dollar limit, but the majority of the proposals fall within a broad range of as few as $8,000 up to about maybe $130,000. That's kind of the investment that EMSL makes in providing the resources and the expertise to support that research.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then how long does the typical project run for?
For this call, the large scale projects run for about 2 years, and that there is a renewal after 1 year to make sure that we move projects forward that are making progress and that we've received samples.
Yeah.
One of you mentioned earlier about scientists bringing students, and is that travel costs altogether or bringing students along? Is that also part of a proposal?
No, unfortunately, the award is only to cover EMSL expenses in supporting it. All travel and accommodation expenses need to be provided by the researcher.
Okay, good clarification. So those are the common questions that we remembered and brought forward here. We should probably open it up now for questions from the audience. If you have anything on your mind that you want to throw at our experts, feel free. These are the science leads and can help you with that. Okay, so one question came in, a reminder about the deadline.
The deadline is March 4th at 11 p.m.
And that is 11 p.m. which time zone?
Pacific.
Pacific time zone.
Our time zone.
So those East Coasters get a little extra, I suppose, in their day. All right, any other questions coming through? There's another one that I've seen before. I have it here to bring up. Do I need to know how to operate the equipment?
No, this is really the beauty of coming to EMSL. We have the expertise to help guide you conducting your research on that instrument, but you don't have to be an expert. We are willing to train and help educate students or yourself in the operation of these instruments and also in the interpretation of the data. So it's a great learning experience, but you certainly don't have to be an expert.
That's great. That's good to have that available here within this user facility. So one more question came in. How do large-scale proposals differ from science-themed proposals?
So science theme proposals are our previous terminology. We thought large-scale proposal was more descriptive because this really is a 2-year window to access our facilities, which is large scale. Thought that was more descriptive. So this is just the next generation of proposal, I guess.
Okay, good. Step up. Another question came in, and this looks like it's for Nancy. What's the acceptance rate of proposals in environmental science?
It's about the same. It's in the 30 to 35%.
Okay. Is that just because of the sheer number of proposals that come in and how much is available to be awarded, do you think? Or what have you seen? 35% make the grade of what you're looking?
It's definitely the amount of funding that we have. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Do we have other questions coming through? Looks like one just came in. All right. Is the topic of energy storage and efficiency to be covered by the calls at EMSL?
So I would say that is probably not directly within BER's biological environmental research mission area. However, if it is a particularly novel application of EMSL resources, and again, there's a strong reason why that cannot be done at your own institution, or then it's probably worth talking to EMSL scientists to see if it might fit into that novel category.
Okay. Good. All right, another question. Is there an expectation for large-scale proposals to have researchers from multiple institutions involved?
There's not necessarily an expectation. We are, the people that work at EMSL are all about teaming. And so having teams come, teams of teams working together is always encouraged, but it doesn't have to be multi-institutional. It's really the science that is being done in the BER mission area that is really the key.
I would say that many of the questions within BER science areas do require or almost necessitate multidisciplinary teams in order to address them fully. And so a lot of times we do see proposals from research teams, but it's not a requirement.
But I've heard you say also that early start in getting a proposal going so that you're not in a rush at the end, probably addressing the kind of institutional support or partnership in the effort is all that before you get to the point of proposal, right? We're not scrambling at the end to find people to be involved.
Very true.
Right. Okay, here's another question. Does the call for proposal include the supercomputing facility also?
Yes, it does. But the same requirements apply, BER mission relevance, etc.
Okay. Okay, another one. Is there an expectation to have a modeling component to the proposal in addition to the experimental and measurements from EMSL?
There is not a requirement. However, I would say that in our experience with peer review, that added modeling experiment integration is really a hallmark of the state of science at this point. I think that many times models are used to guide the experimental design, and they are certainly models are informed by the experimental results. So proposals that really integrate the modeling and experiment are typically ones that do fairly well.
I don't see another question just yet, but I have one more. When you get to the analysis part of the project, what other benefits do you see coming through with EMSL being involved in science research?
Well, our staff are experts in the capabilities that they both run the instruments. So it's really the scientific expertise added on to the instrumentation that is a benefit that EMSL provides. So we are a full service collaboration, as I mentioned before, from conceiving of the experiment all the way up through publication. We are happy and willing and want to be involved.
Okay. All right, so it looks like our queue is is covered so far. Have any questions? If you have any others, go ahead and hit a quick prompt to let us know that you've got one coming, so that we'll give you time to type that in. Doesn't look like we have that right now. So again, I'll remind you that this is recorded. This is going to be available, of course, for anyone to watch again. Materials are coming as follow-up material, the slides that you saw with those specific details. We're going to finish with some more details so that you can know who to contact, where to get questions answered directly as well. I want to thank you for participating with us today out in the audience, wherever you are. There's a good number of you out there, and I also want to thank Nancy and Scott for joining in with the right answers.
Thanks, sir.
There is the user support office that you see on the screen, and that's the one in particular, although you have Nancy and Scott's contact info, but you'll get quick and efficient response from our team. They're very good and easy email and phone number to reach. There's also links that are there as well, and you can certainly type them in or wait for the materials to use. Oh, looks like we have one more question. That's good. Let's field that one. What is the big difference between Ficus and large-scale EMSL research?
The big difference is that with the Ficus proposal, you need to integrate the research at EMSL with the Joint Genome Institute. So it requires requesting and accessing both user facilities. So if you only want to access EMSL, you want to go with a large-scale research, and if you have a scientific questions that utilizes both JGI, the Joint Genome, and EMSL, then the Ficus call is a really good way to go.
Okay, well these questions have been helpful because it helps us to see where you're coming from and what more information you need. As we finish, we'll leave that slide of contact info and links for you again, and we'll give you one more poll so that we can still gather more information from you. We're very interested in knowing what you'd like to learn more about in how we can prepare information for you to be useful. So again, thanks to Nancy and Scott, thanks to you. We wish you well in your proposal efforts, and we hope to talk to you soon if you have more questions to field. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.